Hey guys, how's it going? This is Josh back again with another movie review, but today it's going to be a little different because this is the start of a new video series I've been planning for a while called the Retro Redux. The Retro Redux is essentially going to be a series where I watch a whole bunch of old superhero movies and I give you my thoughts and feelings on them. I'm going to let you know how well they'll hold up to me, in my humble opinion, and also if I ever seen the movie, how I felt about it initially, and how I feel about it now. This is also going to allow me to do official comparisons between reboots and other films that had the advantage of coming out during the time period that it did and the disadvantage of coming out at the time period that it did. And I just find it all pretty interesting how, regardless of how bad or good the superhero movie was, if it was a mainstream superhero movie, it definitely has an influence on modern day superhero movies, either being a beacon of what you would like to replicate and maybe reinforce and reintroduce in your newer films, or them being the exact blueprint of what you're not supposed to do in your superhero films. And today we're going to start off with 2003's Hulk. If you ask a lot of people, Ang Lee's Hulk is pretty much the poster boy of it was alright superhero films. This is nowhere near as badly received, even to this day, as some other hits like Daredevil or Fantastic Four or Catwoman. However, this is still not that great of a film. To be honest, it's not even that good of a film.
Boom, roasted.
Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sit here and act like there's nothing to appreciate in this movie. There absolutely is. However, I think this movie does a really bad job when it comes to writing its characters. And what I mean by that is their characters really just have no motivation. And to be quite honest, the characters that do have motivations, their motivations are incredibly flimsy or cliche. Honestly, truly, any character arc, progression, or development. I mean, seriously, every character in this film doesn't really change from beginning to end. You could go down the list, even from the main character, Bruce Banner, who Eric Bana does a serviceable job as this meek, mild-mannered scientist, Bruce Banner. But unfortunately, unlike Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man or even Ben Affleck's Daredevil, this character really doesn't have any goals in mind. Like, sure, he's a scientist working on whatever project him and his team are working on, but he isn't someone who has that many vocal or noticeable convictions about him. He's really just a hapless dude that lives in this world and the world happens around him. But unfortunately, unlike most films that may have like this avatar or boring protagonist in which the audience is just supposed to relate to them, he's really just a side character in his own story, in a story that has a bunch of side characters. Like I said, since no one goes through any real development or any change or any arcs or relationships even that alter from beginning to end, this really feels like an inconsequential film. It's an inconsequential origin story for a character. I feel like you could just slip into any shared universe if you wanted to, which I don't think was the goal of this movie, but that's what it feels like. This feels like the Ant-Mans and the Captain Marvels of the MCU, in which there's really no rhyme or reason to this film other than to watch the second one because it just establishes facts about the character that you need to know. But other than that, there's no movie here. The antagonists of the film, I guess you could say there are three, or the one person that actually has a deep planned out motivation is the Nick Nolte character. The first and main antagonist of the film is pretty much his father, David Banner, who essentially is revealed to be the reason why Hulk is in existence, or why Bruce Banner was able to survive the experiment that, or I should say accident, that gave him his abilities. By the time we get to the resolution of the father conflict, it just turns into a disgusting, nasty CGI fest that is benefited from the advantage of having a character that's really just terrain as opposed to a character that Hulk has to battle, which is smart on that end because the CGI sucks except for the Hulk, so why not just have something generic and easy to whip up as his enemy? Which, by the way, that is one moment in the film that I actually really appreciate, is that when Bruce Banner receives his abilities, it's not necessarily an accident in terms of how it happens, it's just a mistake. I do appreciate that it's a heroic act that he performs that gives him his abilities, but outside of that, there isn't really anything to establish Bruce Banner as a hero. I guess you could say that he has good morals because he denies the help of the secondary or tertiary main antagonist of the film, I should say Talbot. Talbot's portrayed by Josh Lucas, who is overacting his ass off this entire movie. Like, it's really annoying, and also plays a huge part as to why I really don't like this movie that much.
Oh, am I?
But I will say he does have a really funny death scene, so it makes it all worth it. He gets what he deserves in this movie, not because of his actions in the film, but honestly just because of how bad the actor is. But, he denies that guy's help early on in the film, so I guess you're supposed to lean towards the section that Bruce Banner is at least morally conscious. He's not someone who will take advantage of his position of power and what have you. He doesn't want whatever he's doing to fall into the wrong hands. And that's also a huge issue with a lot of these early Marvel films, is that a lot of the organizations and people in positions of power are usually original ideas that were created by the studio or the writers, because all of these films were owned by rivaling studios who own the exclusive rights to certain names of organizations and teams and enemies and what have you in the Marvel universe. So you could easily swap out entire base at the end of this film for AIM, SHIELD, or any of those organizations that you may or may not be familiar with. But unfortunately, due to legal restraints, it is, just generic corporation. And the third antagonist in this film would be General Ross, who is someone who's pretty much synonymous with Hulk at this point. And unlike, Nick Nolte as David Banner, General Ross is just there. He's boring, he has nothing, he isn't really given much, and his change of heart really not only comes out of nowhere, but isn't really developed or focused on enough. It's just kind of like, well, the Talbot guy, I guess, betrayed me or, undercut me, so I'm not really working with the Hulk. But at the same time, I guess, I just feel like everything in this film is just so whatever. Things just happen. There aren't moments in which you're shown why someone would behave this way, or why someone might change their mind, or why someone would be so upset. Things just are. I'm gonna hyper focus on Jennifer Connelly's character, Betty Ross, who is a character that I think everyone agrees is one of the worst love interests in comic book history, right? I mean, her dad is a general that's hunting the Hulk down, and all she does is just play as a huge beacon or bait for the Hulk character. This is mainly due to the fact that I don't think Jennifer Connelly does a good job in this movie at all, or even her and Bruce Banner having any sort of romantic chemistry at all. A lot of it just feels like she's falling in love with the Hulk almost, just because there's more chemistry there, because she's not saying anything and neither is he, I guess. And one thing I will say is really good in this movie is the animation for the Hulk. I feel like the Hulk, in every scene that he appears in, regardless of how stupid the circumstance may be or how bad the CGI looks around him or for the other characters, he always looks really good. I like the shade of green that they gave him. I also like color palette looks in this film in general. It's something that's appealing to the eye, and I have to give them all the credit in the world for it. However, that's pretty much where all of my good graces and positive remarks for this film stop. Like I said, the characters are really not characters. They're just like the movie's playthings. And even though I feel like the character of the Hulk could easily be slipped into, let's say, the X-Men franchise at this time, or Spider-Man, or even Fantastic Four, everything outside of that could really just stay in this movie, including Bruce Banner, which is why this film is received the way that it's received, at least in my opinion. This is the complete opposite of the good superhero movies at the time, which heavily focused on the characters behind the superpowers, not specifically the superpowers. And the neat thing that you could do with the Hulk is the fact that the character of Bruce Banner's superpower is a character itself. And there are moments in the film where they kind of allude to this character having some sort of introspection and self-reflection inside of him. But all of that is really stomped by the action in this movie, which, to be honest, the action isn't bad. It's serviceable. At times it's pretty fun, but nothing super clever or jaw-dropping. Like I said, I really like how the Hulk looks, and I would like to see this Hulk in other movies. I'm not saying that I think this Hulk or Bruce Banner is better than Mark Ruffalo's. I know for a fact that that just simply isn't the case. And I know a lot of people prefer the way that the Hulk is presented in this movie, but let's be clear, all of the stuff, all of the cool things, all of the menacing things that this Hulk has done has been portrayed, and you know, whether or not it's been portrayed better or worse is subjective, but the MCU has shown the scary, destructive, and actiony side of the Hulk. The MCU has developed Bruce Banner so well that this movie couldn't even dream of having half as much development for the Bruce Banner character that the MCU has had. Nothing too offensive or, you know, hate-worthy, though. There's never a moment where I was watching this film and I got angry. Just, you know, stone-faced boredom for majority of it. But there's so much potential with how the Hulk scenes were directed that I wish, you know, maybe Ang Lee was able to handle a more modern-day superhero film. Maybe not an MCU film, considering how those are way more uniform now, but maybe... Now, if you agree, disagree, or don't even remember this movie, let me know in the comments. Like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.